Welcome, y'all. Welcome to Random Conversations with me, Elizabeth. Yay! It's a brand new season. I'm really excited. And for those of you who don't know, this is a podcast where I talk to interesting strangers about why and how they live their life. So that's what we're going to do with this podcast today. Make sure you get a drink, you roll something up, do something special for yourself, and just, relax. I'm so excited. We're going to bring our special guest in here in just a second. Her name is Goddess Erica. Hey there!
Hello.
Yay!
Hi,
I can hear you. I'm excited. Oh my gosh, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Yes. Oh my, thank you for being on here. Thank you for blessing my little podcast with your presence. I'm so excited to talk to you. So this is Goddess Erica. For those who are coming in and coming out, please feel free to leave questions, anything. This is Random Conversations with Elizabeth podcast. I talk to interesting strangers about why and how they live life. We're talking to Goddess Erica. You are a sexual empowerment coach, an orgasmic doula, a dom. You are lots of things. I was talking to someone trying to explain what you do, and they were like, "Oh my God, she sounds like a multi-layered cake of like fascination, fascinating." Like, yes, you are a you're like everything. You're everything.
I do a little bit of everything. It's all within the spectrum of sexual empowerment. So I like to say, first and foremost, that I'm a sexual empowerment coach for people at any place in their sexual journey, whether it's you're single and you're trying to figure yourself out and find the right partner, whether you're partnered, whether you're trying to conceive, expecting, about to go into labor, postpartum, figuring out your kinks, figuring out your sexuality, all of those things. You can come to me and I can help to guide you to be more in tune with that. And also in the vein of being, of empowering other people. Recently, I joined Make Love Not Porn, which is a social sex sharing platform, as their brand ambassador and also as a Make Love Not Porn star. So I'm also sharing my own content on the platform.
That is awesome. So did you ever imagine that you would be making sexual content for others?
It was always a dream. When I was younger, particularly when I first started dating my husband very early on in our relationship, we watched a lot of porn together, and we had amazing sex, and we're like, we want to share our sex, and there was always these barriers. Well, it was like 15, 16 years ago. So the ability to record was a little bit more complicated back then. Also, what was considered marketable and able to actually like make money wasn't a lot of Black women. Wasn't I'm not really interested in being kind of like used as a sex toy, and that tends to track with like standard run of the mill guy focused porn. So I wasn't really into to doing it, and we always talked about it and joked that maybe we could find some way around it and just do our stuff anyway. And it just never happened until recently. So it's always been a thing that I've wanted to do, but it's never really been a thing that I felt like I was safe to do or welcome, or that I would be desirable in those spaces.
Wow. Okay, so that's interesting. Talking about being welcomed in that like porn space and being desired. What porn were you watching? Or I guess two questions. What porn were you watching before you decided to kind of make this switch? And what did you think? You kind of talked about the male gaze, but what did you think? What do you think is missing in porn, or what do you think is the current state of porn? What is your opinion on it?
So even before I met my husband, I was, your regular single 20-something, and I was also very sexually open, which in my early 20s wasn't necessarily something that was seen as girlfriend material.
Wow.
But I would go to the local video store, and they had the room in the back, and I'd be the only woman back there, and it was so funny to be in that space. And every single time there would be like some guy would come into that little tiny room and would see me there and just like kind of back out, because they don't know what to do. They don't know how to respond to women who are sexually free. The type of porn I watched was vanilla porn. I really didn't dig into too much kink porn. It wasn't that it wasn't interesting to me. I think it felt like, something other people were doing. It depended, but I really liked, I don't know, maybe I'm going to age myself.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was really into Lexington Steel.
I love Lexington. Yes, I love Lexington Steel. I love it. I like him because he talks a lot, and I think I like that. Yeah,
yeah. I loved his energy. I loved his cum roar. I loved how there would be moments where right.
Yes,
you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
The cum roar. I was there for the cum roar.
There are compilations of him coming. Like there are a whole, even on YouTube where you can just listen to the audio.
Yeah. And I probably need to check that out, because it's been a while since I've watched any of his stuff. And, I loved how he would have connection with some of his partners. It wasn't just like run of the mill. I loved how, even though he was I'm assuming he's still pretty well endowed. Even though he's very well endowed, you could tell that he wasn't always just trying to plow through people. The kind of porn that I watched kind of evolved from there after seeing that I liked that kind of connection and engagement with the other partner. I started going towards more amateur porn because you see more connections. But, back then, amateur porn, it was very hit or miss. And, I found stuff that I could get off to, but a lot of the time I was kind of digging through things where it just kind of felt like the woman was being used. The woman was, I always had a fantasy about having a three-way with two men, but I was always terrified of the thought because, in standard porn, doing a two-way means that you're basically just getting passed between two guys and they're just high-fiving each other. You're a prop. And I didn't want to be a prop. I wanted to, have that attention lavished on me and be cared for in that kind of situation. So amateur porn was interesting, or more interesting for me as I evolved into my porn watching. But over the years, I actually kind of slowed down and stopped watching porn. There was a point where I watched a lot of porn. Did
you think it was a problem?
I don't know if I thought it was a problem, but I worried that I wasn't able to arouse myself without it.
Oh,
I was wrong. But,
that's a good point, though. That's something to think about. I think something we're all thinking about during this quarantine.
Yeah.
You're coming up with all these ways to distract yourself, and you're not around anybody, and so. A lot of us are watching porn.
Yeah, props. We're using props. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that it's only a problem when it interferes with your ability to do other things. Not just like, you're watching porn and you're not eating or sleeping or anything like that. But I mean, like, even in your relationships. So if you're in a relationship and you need porn to connect with that other person, then that's a problem if that's not something that you are connecting together with. So I've watched porn with my partners, and got aroused and then turned to them for satisfaction, or watched it and critiqued the parts that we liked and talked about the little things that I want to do that, or I'm scared to do that.
That is
Watching porn together is a conversation starter.
Okay, but you know what though? I guess just in my own experience, it seems that some men are intimidated, or not intimidated, but it just weirds them out. I think they're just kind of like, you want to watch this with me? Like, why?
Interestingly enough, I can see that, But it reminds me of another situation where like the intimidation factor is kind of surprising. And that's, I've noticed that whenever I go into strip clubs, if I go alone, it's fine. But if I go with a male partner, then there's this distance that's kept by the dancers. And I don't know if it's because like other women or there's experience with women being kind of hands off. Like I've brought I brought you here to see the women, but look, but don't touch or something. But like, I'm trying to wave people down for like, to like lap dances for me and for him.
And they're like,
and so it's interesting that the intimidation factor of a sexually open woman can actually be intimidating to both sexes.
Wow. So now you are with Make Love Not Porn, and you're making content. How do you like being on the site so far? And
I love it. It is so incredibly welcoming. It is a really, really great space to be for me at the place that I am within my career. And I actually just wrote a piece about it, and it should be getting published on their site pretty soon.
Awesome.
But yeah, so I'll share that information once it's ready. But I kind of gushed about how I love the space. It's welcoming. It's inclusive. You can see all types of people, all body shapes, all ages, all gender expressions, like all types of sex. Solo masturbation for men and women, couples, different locations. If you are having sex in some type of way, it belongs on Make Love Not Porn. I mean, consensual sex. Consensual sex with consenting partners. If you're doing it, it belongs there. And that's what's so wonderful, because there's not a lot of spaces that offer that freedom. We have to censor ourselves on Instagram, no matter what the conversation is. Anything that is in the sexual realm, if you don't have a blue check next to your account, you have to speak in code. You have to, it's kind of, it's discouraging.
Yes. Yes.
And, and you go to other spaces, you go to, words that sound like, only stands. And it's more sexually welcoming, but there's a factor of male gaze, and there's also a factor of men in control.
It's so interesting, because I don't think, well, see, that's why I think I need to watch more ethical porn, because I feel like I don't know what porn is like without that male gaze. I almost don't know what it's like, or what it, like what is this?
It's for you. And that is the whole, that's the whole point. And I wanted to, that you sent me a question, you emailed me a question, and you asked what I felt radical self-love meant. Yes. Yeah. And that's what it means. It means that you are committed to your pleasure, not at the expense of other people. You are committed to your pleasure, and it doesn't matter what other people think. It doesn't matter if other people are offended or don't think that it's their thing. Obviously don't offend other people. Don't, if you're not, I want to put this in the right terms. If you are not harming someone in your activities and in the ways that you are expressing yourself sexually, if you and your partners have agreed to the things that you are doing, and you are informed about any risks, and you are prepared with mitigating those risks, and
communication.
Is
strong important. Communication is key. Oh my gosh, but it could be scary. I think communication, and I think having the patience for yourself to actually love yourself. And even in the interview I was watching when you were talking about, and it's Tantra.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Tantra.
Yeah. You were talking about having that patience of like, you know, being intentional and being in the moment, even when you're touching yourself, even if you're like touching your hand, like touching your hand or touching your face, like, but then I was thinking, oh gosh, that takes so much pressure. Like I pull out my vibe and I'm like, okay, I'm done. Like,
and you can do that. You can totally do that. That's totally valid. You don't always have to be like present and in the moment. I mean, if you like, I have days where like, I just want to get one off. That's fine. But temper that with actually being conscious about what your pleasure is and why you're doing it. If you're touching yourself in a certain way and it's not doing it for you, don't be frustrated that it's not doing it for you. Find something else that is doing it for you. And that goes for guys too. Guys who have erectile issues, touch yourself in some other way. Find some other way to exude that pleasure, because your genitals aren't the only place that can make you come. So find those other spots. They're everywhere. They're literally everywhere.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's a good point. That's a good point. And I feel like we have some time, you know, now that we're all in this quarantine together, we have some time to really do that.
Exactly. You know, like you said, grab yourself a drink, roll yourself something up. And, you know, and even if you don't do any of those things, you know, really just sitting and being with yourself is scary for a lot of people. I encourage people to take mirrors and look into their own eyes, but it can be really intimidating the first time. It you know, and people are like, what if I laugh? Then laugh. Then laugh. That's what you need. You need to laugh then. You know, and then you get to a point where like you don't laugh, and then you start seeing yourself. And that is so incredibly profound. And then when you start looking at yourself lovingly, game changer. It's an absolute game changer. When you start looking at yourself the way that you look at your partners, when you start looking at yourself the way you want other people to look at you, that's radical self-love. That is how you become brave enough to communicate your needs to other people, because you already know what you're worth. You already know what it is. You already know what it means and feels like to be loved, because you love yourself. So many of us feel like we want to like fill in the deficits or be someone's other half. We enter relationships as two holes, and then we're Super Saiyans. So,
I like that.
We power each other up. We don't complete each other. We elevate each other.
That is awesome. So wow. So and if anyone wants to check you out on there, just go to makelovenotporn.com.
Make Love Not Porn. Actually, if you want to check me out and you want to get a free view, you can go to, I have a tiny URL for it, so it should be easy to remember. It's tinyurl.com/YesGoddessErica. All one word.
Yes. Okay, and so Goddess Erica is in your name. You are. So do you go by? Do you see yourself as so there's so many different domina, femdom, I guess I know there's so many others.
I see myself as a goddess, and I am offended that FetLife does not have a checkbox for goddess. I can go by the general term dame. And the only reason that I choose that designation is because there's no designation of goddess, because I really do identify the way that I express my kink is through a foundation of spirituality, where I see the divine power in myself. And through kinky play, I'm able to safely explore and commune with that part of myself. And I also encourage other people to do the same. I don't expect people to worship me. I expect them to worship themselves. And in kinky play is when I have men on their knees trembling before me and professing their fealty to me. But I identify as a goddess.
That's awesome. How do you so many things. I guess I want to know how you found that. But then even that, for some reason, even that word, goddess, like, I don't know. I guess it triggers me in a way because I guess as a Black woman, like being in the kink scene, I feel like that's kind of like a go-to for a lot of white men mostly, is to be like goddess and like, I want to worship you. And then, and so for a while, I just would get offended by that because I just thought, I guess in that, I just feel like I'm a woman too. Like I'm a sub. Like I feel like, okay, this is what I'm trying to say. I feel like I'm saying a lot. I feel like I almost lose my femininity almost.
Huh. Oh, I could see. I think I understand what you're saying. When you look at someone as, or you try to categorize them as a deity, then it becomes less sexualized.
Yeah.
I disagree. And I actually love that you just said that. Because I personally believe that every single human spirit, the divine force that exists within all of us, because we all have one, it is what animates us. That force is female for all of us, because feminine energy is what creates life. So how are we living if there's not a feminine energy within us? So when someone calls you goddess, they're just speaking to the energy within you. Even if they're white men who are trying to, fetishize you and fetishize your Blackness, like, no, turn that shit around. Yes, I'm a goddess, but I'm also a sub, so come take care of me.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. And we did mention kink for those who don't know, like, how do you think about kink, or what is your definition of kink? I looked it up, and it's like, it says an unusual, what does it say? A person's unusual sexual preference.
That seems a little harsh. The definition of kink is really just what turns you on, the things that turn you on, and it's as varied as people are varied. You can be turned on by pretty much anything. And honestly, okay, so kink and fetish are different. So fetish are non-sexual things that turn you on sexually, but kink is the activities, the play that you do that turns you on, or that just gets you excited in a sexual way, because you can be turned on and have no intention towards sex or sexual gratification. Sexual arousal is just energy. So when we feel it, it's just an expression of pleasure. One of the things that I had to process personally was the sexual, and I need to temper my words here, because I'm about to start talking about, like, when I was breastfeeding, one of the things that happens that people aren't aware of is when you breastfeed, it triggers uterine contractions that help shrink your uterus when you're postpartum. So the first month or so, whenever you latch the baby on, there's a twinge. And the twinge feels like you're becoming aroused. And I
was going to ask about that. Yeah. That's something I've always thought about, or okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it was a twinge for me. Maybe some people don't feel it. I'm very connected to my sexuality. But your uterus, there's a response in your uterus and your genitals to latching a baby on. And so it was easy to separate the two. This is not me being aroused. This is just my body responding. But mentally, I had to separate the two. Like, oh, this is weird, but it's not. It's not weird. It's just a physical response, and it's arousal is just a response to pleasure, and pleasure can come in so many different ways, and that's why you have people who have kinks and fetishes, because pleasure comes in many different ways.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And actually, the pleasure that you feel when you're breastfeeding, the oxytocin that's released, all of that, it just helps you bond to your baby. It makes you it turns you into a mama bear.
Wow. So yeah, so there's a difference between that arousal and then that instant connection to like sexual energy.
Yeah.
Wow, and understanding that.
Yeah.
So it seems like that's a big part of kink, is understanding that those two things are different.
Yeah.
Because I think coming into and so it seems like with this quarantine, a lot of people are coming into kink, or coming and going on to FetLife and everything. And I think maybe disappointed when it's not just like sex.
Yeah.
It's a lot of like, so many steps backwards you have to kind of take in kind of learning about yourself and what turns you on. That it could be kind of, I think, difficult for a lot of people. I know when I first started, I was like, what the hell is that? I felt like, I was just like, I'm like turned on, and now I'm just horny. Like there's nothing, I need like a
release. Yeah. People just nerding out to sex. That's what I love about the kink community, is just people nerding out to sex. That's what I love about Make Love Not Porn, is you have a bunch of people who are just really excited about the sex that they're having. And there's no other space to socially share it. And the fact that you can get paid for it is icing, is gravy. But really what people are there for is like, I'm having this great sex, or I'm doing this thing that I don't think people realize people are doing sexually, or I've discovered this. There's a guy on Make Love Not Porn who can stimulate himself to arousal and orgasm by just touching his nipples. There are so many ways to enjoy sex and to enjoy yourself. And how do you know that if you're not in a space that welcomes all of those nuances?
Right. And being able to create that space for yourself. You said, okay, making money from it. What do you think is the big, for some reason, I say you can go to a haunted house. You can pay to be scared. You can pay to jump out of a plane. You can pay for a personal chef to come, but paying for sexual content is like, everyone's like, oh my God, no.
Oh man. Don't even get me started. I am going to have to I'm going to back myself away from standing on this soapbox that I really want to stand on. It is rooted in the patriarchy. It is rooted in the idea that women's bodies belong to everyone. It is a double standard that you can pay to watch violence in movies, or pay to do things that are sex adjacent. But the moment that you pay for someone to sexually stimulate you, to be a companion to you, to fill those spaces that maybe you just don't have like the emotional or mental or time to cultivate a relationship, being able to still gratify yourself sexually, or to explore, or whatever it is that you want to do with sex, it's not received well, because it suggests a level of freedom that men don't want women to have.
But why? I feel like if we're all free, like we're all going to have fun together.
But we're not, because the oldest form of discrimination is discrimination of men against women. There's always been a delineation. We've always been their little toys, their little things to keep and protect and to own. That's why we take our men's last names when we get married. It's, we belong to them. And we can slice it however we want to say, and act like we're free, but and there's a certain level of freedom to it. I'm not locked in the house, but at the end of the day, there's an unconscious understanding of like what this really is. Where it's the veiled language of we're too weak, or we're delicate, or don't have this or that to take care of ourselves. That's all bullshit. I can outrun most of the guys I know. So like, what do you say? It's because we have always been considered property, and we can't sell their property. So we can't sell sex.
Oh, I didn't think about it that way. We can't sell their property.
No.
Yikes.
Yeah.
So going back to being a goddess and and domination. How did you start doing that? I guess my thing is like, how did you find how did you find your divineness?
Yeah. How did I find the language for it?
Yeah.
Life is funny. Life is weird. So I mentioned my husband. We've been dating, or we've been together for a really long time. We've tried a lot of things. The first 10 years of our relationship, we were monogamous, and it was great. We were always really open about like people that we were attracted to. We would sit at like cafes and be like, he's hot. You know, we talk about our crushes with work, with coworkers, and it was always like a look but don't touch understanding. And we trusted each other. We trusted each other in situations that other relationships would have been like, oh, absolutely not. What if something happened?
Yeah.
It's about trust. And so years and years of trusting and communicating and just being honest with each other. Finally, there came a day where I had to confess to him that I had a fantasy about watching him with another person. And I was like, I don't want you to do it. I just want to tell you that I want you to do it. And then, him receiving that and hearing it turned into, maybe I actually do want you to do it. And the conversation kind of evolved into that. And we started exploring playing with other people. And very quickly, we discovered that it was easier for me to find people as a woman than it was for him to find people. It's just, it's just the way it is. And during one of our encounters, I realized that that I felt so incredibly safe with my husband, that he was focused on my pleasure, was focused on my safety, was focused on all of the things that had kind of made me go away from the idea of having two men at one time. And that I was able to find those kind of characteristics in other men if I knew what to ask for. That all I needed to do was ask, or rather tell. And so that evolved into, you know what, in addition to having sex with two men, I want them to worship me. I want my pleasure to be their focus. I want to be the project that they're working on together, not the thing that they're trying to destroy together.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, because I mean, even in the way that that language is used about like having sex, like smashing and banging, and there's a violence to it that suggests conquering. And I didn't want to be conquered. I wanted to be worshipped. And that is where Goddess Erica came from, because I realized that I wanted to be worshipped like a goddess. I wanted them on their knees, really focusing on my pleasure. And that's kind of what happened.
Wow. That is so amazing. That's so amazing. I think you brought up a good point of like, because that wanting two men, that's the thing kind of like I worry about is like, being destroyed, not being able to walk away from that,
right.
And so that's what keeps me away from wanting that. Like, I want that, but that's what keeps me away from doing it. But actually you made a good point of like, getting to know the characteristics that you trust, the things that make you feel comfortable, and then being able to, once you know that, being able to find it in other people. It's like, oh, okay. You can start knocking things off the checklist. Wow. So then what does to Goddess Erica, what does true worship look like? I know we talked about it means worshiping yourself, but what does that look like to you? Well,
worship in a scene it's different for every partner. Because people are different and nuanced, and how they show up to the space is different. So I have to be prepared for the other person's energy and where they're coming from. True worship is letting go of your ego in front of me. I love when men tremble before me. They're like, I'm this little unassuming woman. I could kick someone's ass. But like the fact that men who are twice my size, get on their knees and are afraid to look me in the eyes, are trembling, are, maybe they're trembling because their knees hurt, but also, being able to acquiesce to my desires, even if they're kind of wild, or not even getting them to their pleasure. I love delaying orgasms. I love ignoring the dick, because it's not about your pleasure. It's about me right now. True worship is submitting to that knowledge, to that understanding, and still being able to find pleasure in the situation, in the moment that we're sharing together. And you absolutely can. But so many guys are dick focused, need to get off, need to show my prowess, need to like show these moves that I got. But the moves that you got might not work on the next person that you have, because you really need to understand every single person's body. So just like me being able to understand that someone coming into my space might have a different way of expressing their worship towards me, or their energy may be different in the way that they express their worship towards me. The same thing with sex and pleasure. It's different for every single partner. And so as a man, men need to understand that box of tricks is only as good as how well you listen, is only as good as how well you watch, and is only as good as how well you acquiesce to what she's asking you to do. And don't take offense to things like pulling out the toys, or needing to stop, or wanting to go slower, or not going as deep, or just cuddling for a minute. Making out is sex. There's, so when the understanding of what sex is becomes wider for male-bodied people, then the ability to experience and enjoy that sex becomes wider, and that's basically, it's tantra. That's tantra, is submitting yourself to the pleasurable experience, the pleasurable sensations. And like I said, those pleasurable sensations don't always have to take a sexual turn, even if they're happening in your sexual organs. And inversely, the pleasure sensations that you have in other body parts, your ears starting to tingle, or, you feel like something running down your legs, up and down your spine, your brain doing that thing that it does. You know what I'm talking about. That's, if your intention is to process it as sexual pleasure, then it is. But if your intention is not to process it that way, then it's just a really good feeling.
Oh, yeah, no, that's this is like a lot I'm thinking about. Because I'm like, okay. I guess talking about in the kink space, I thought, I don't know. And I know everyone's different, but I guess I thought everything had to kind of end with like penetration for me, because I just was like, I couldn't understand. Right. So you can enjoy a feeling and just enjoy the feeling. It doesn't have to like,
The feeling can be the goal. It does the penetration, the PIV sex, you don't even have to touch a genital. You don't. And that's when you have that energy exchange with another person, it's so incredibly mind blowing. It connects you to yourself while you're connecting to another person, because you're understanding something about your pleasure that you probably never realized. And you're also understanding something about the way that you're relating to that other person. That's so profound. And I really want more people to experience that. I want more people to see that is possible, which is why I'm on Make Love Not Porn, because the sex that I'm having is informed by that thinking. And
I've seen the scenes. It's like it's slow and it's sexy, and it's like there's a connection. You know what I mean? There's a connection that I'm watching. Wow. So is it always between you and your husband, or do you have subs that you shoot with?
So I am polyamorous. I am married to my husband. We've been together for 17 years. And
wow, that is a long time.
A long time. I have one submissive partner who I've been with for 4 years. Another partner who's also submissive to me that I've been with for 2 years. I've got a fuck buddy who's also submissive to me. I've got submissives who I don't have sex with, but who serve me. I love to have like service play. So
what does that include?
It includes anything. I have a massage sub. I have had submissives come to my house and clean. Like these are people that like I've vetted and I've known for a long time. I'm not just inviting like random people from Instagram. Please don't DM me and ask me. But I have people who come to my house and made me dinner, like made me and my family, me and my husband, and I have a 10-year-old, made us dinner, washed the dishes. I have a sub who cleaned out my basement, cleaned my attic, did my lawn work. I love polyamory because of how you can diversify your support network. So wow. I have a partner who's really into one thing and another partner who's really into another thing. My husband is actually more of a dominant person, so we don't have a kink power dynamic. We're just two doms loving each other. And it's being able to have different people to serve the different parts of yourself is probably one of the things that people miss because they're too busy being hung up on the misconceptions about what polyamory is. They think it's just people being promiscuous or like cheaters who are lying about like whether their partners know it. They think it's just some sexual free for all, and it's not. Or they think that it's too complicated, but it's really just it's about like communicating. It's the same thing as with Tantra. It's all the same. You talk about it. You talk about what you don't like. You are, constantly communicating. You're not withholding information. You're, building each other up by giving each other the proper tools to meet each other where they are.
That is so. Oh, wait, we have a comment that says that's amazing from Anita. Anita. And yeah, you guys, if you have questions, please submit them. Say whatever. Wow, that is awesome. All of the different parts of yourselves, that you can have service and find people to do that. Wow, I can see this is my own thing, but I immediately think, oh gosh, I don't know if I'm worthy of that. That's my own thing.
And this is why people need domination coaching. Even if you're a submissives, I love coaching submissives because particularly AFAB, assigned female at birth, people who find themselves in a submissive mindset or who identify as really finding their pleasure through submission. That's completely valid, but that doesn't mean that you are laying yourself out to be just used by somebody. Dominants need to earn the submission of their submissives. And the best way to do that, if you are a female or a female identified person, is you have to find somebody who is able to see that you are so much greater than the play that you are encapsulating yourselves in. So I want to be able to like say this the right way, because it's a really important point. It's a really important point. Submission doesn't mean less. It doesn't mean that you are not the equal partner. It doesn't mean that you aren't worthy of being worshipped and put on a pedestal. It doesn't mean that your desires are not listened to. As a matter of fact, as a submissive, you are the one who is in charge. You have the power. You're just giving the control to your dominant. So with that power, how could you not be divine? How could you not have that energy? That needs to be acknowledged, respected, and then with that, you feel free to let yourself go in the presence of this person who has already demonstrated to you that they see you as much more than the thing that maybe in play they're degrading you to, or that, you know, that they're asking you to do these things that would otherwise suggest that that you're less than, because they're already showing you that you're not, that there's a separation between the two. One of the things that was really interesting when I first, you know, when I was a baby dom, is my one of my submissive partners he's my Gimp, and I call him Gimp. It is the name that I have for him. And someone noted to me that I say it with so much love and care and respect in my voice.
Because Gimp is Gimp. What does Gimp actually mean? That's like,
well, people can see it as a bad thing. I think because what a Gimp is someone who gets pleasure out of being a faceless, nameless tool for someone else's pleasure.
Oh, that's
and
hot,
so with
though.
That runs the risk of being kind of disrespected and disregarded, and your feelings don't count, and you're not a person. And maybe in play that's cool, but outside of play, they're still a human being. They're still someone who you respect and want to show that respect to. And so when I would refer to my Gimp, it wasn't with derision in my voice. It wasn't with like he's nobody. It's like, this is a person who's important to me. This is a person who has willingly and with an understanding of the premise of giving your power to someone, has willingly given his power to me and trusts my decisions top to bottom, whether I'm picking his food or picking what he's wearing or picking where we're going or picking what we're doing, picking how we're playing, how long he's going to be on his knees. Like, that level of trust is, I admire that, because I don't know if I could give somebody that much trust.
Right.
I mean, honestly, I think I could give it to him. I could give it to my husband. I could give it to my other partner. But that's something that, like, you really have to respect the people that you're entering into these situations with. And if you don't have respect for them, then
it's kind of hard.
You're not ready for play. You shouldn't play with people you don't respect. You shouldn't play with people you don't like. That's partially, or that's a lot of the reasons why. I'm a lifestyle dom, and I don't really do pro-doming. There are things that I offer in my service package that kind of toe that line, but I don't want to have to give that much of emotional energy to a stranger. I don't want to have to give that much emotional energy to a transactional situation that maybe from their side of things is very one-sided. It has to be two ways. It has to be two ways. And so there's a lot of respect that comes from, or I have a lot of respect for people who put themselves in a position of kind of being at the whims of the person that they've given their power to.
Wow. Okay. Thank you for the hearts, y'all. Thank you for the hearts. Anyone coming in? This is Random Conversation with Elizabeth. This is a podcast where I talk to interesting strangers. We're talking to the lovely goddess Erica about everything right now. So there's two more questions. One, I wanted to ask, I mean, it's kind of I want to make sure I remember the other question. I wanted to ask you about your, domination coaching, but before we get into that, I wanted to ask what do you do with like triggers? Okay, so I watched a presentation of a woman, a Black woman being whipped, and by her dom, and he was saying it was they had like certain phrases they would say, like when he would whip her, she was supposed to say her name. He would ask her who she was. And so, and I felt, it just made me feel a lot of different things. And so I guess, and I know you were saying you have a rope, kink. And so being tied up with, anything with rope and whips, I immediately am like, oh, how do you deal with like triggers, like of being a Black woman and all that?
So everybody's triggers are different, and we all have things that trigger us, and to different degrees. So really being aware of the fact that anything can trigger anybody at any time, and that they can express that triggering in any way. It's really, in my play, it's about asking questions first, asking questions during, watching someone's body language. Personally, I'm not a fan of slave play, because Black woman, like I don't call my partners slaves. If you identify as a slave, that's cool, but I'm not going to call you my slave. I'm also not so keen on, I'm probably going to get a lot of hate mail here. I don't find male domination subversive. I don't find it particularly all that kinky, and that's not to yuck anybody else's yum, but kink, in my opinion, is subversive to the cultural norms, and male dominance is already a cultural norm. So you get to like push that further, but I don't know. To me, that just feels like
it's already mainstream. I didn't even think about it that way.
Yeah, I don't want to play the thing that can happen to me in real life. So it's, for me, I'm a fan of, if it's something that you don't like, then don't engage in it. If it's something that you don't like, don't watch it. Don't yuck other people's yum. Don't assume that someone is being abused. Like if you really truly feel like there's something wrong, then like find some way to, maybe not intervene, but if you're in a dungeon, like go to the dungeon master, or whatever it is. But yeah, you really, if you're triggered by something, then just remove yourself from the situation. If you can't remove yourself from the situation, well, then someone's being abusive.
That's a good point. I guess just more understanding. It's just so much work.
There's so many layers, and there's so much to think about and so much to consider. And it's hard work, and like working through all of the societal stigmas, even just to exist in a kink space, to exist as a Black woman in a kink space.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And having to kind of like shield yourself from, and then also allowing yourself to have the freedom to be sexual and open, but also having to protect yourself at the same time
from being fetishized.
Yeah, it can be kind of difficult.
Yeah, there's a lot of balancing going on. It can be hard, and it can be off-putting for some people. Yeah. And again, that's why I do what I do. That's why I have domination coaching, because there's so many people who like have their faces pressed against the glass, who are looking at the kink world, and they're like, oh, it's so amazing, oh, it's so scary, and you're like, I don't know what to do. And you really just need a guide to be like, so here's the kitchen, here's how you get out, here's what you do when you want to ask for help. It's here's where you go when you find yourself. It's really, we all need a guide for pretty much everything. I'm a baby entrepreneur, and I seek guides to inspire me, to fix the things that like I'm still having trouble figuring out. There's no shame in asking for help. There's no shame in leaning on someone else. I saw like a meme recently that said, when you hit a wall, instead of worrying about like, oh, how am I going to get past it? Sometimes the wall's there because you need something to lean on. Sometimes you just need somebody to lean on.
Oh, I like that. I really like that. I was going to say so even with your coaching, it's not even just for sexual spaces either. It's like just kind of learning how to empower yourself generally.
Yes.
Which I think is cool. I'm like, oh, can you microdose on that? Can I take that?
Let me tell you. So one of the things that I did when I was coming into my domness and getting comfortable with my sadism and, like, how am I presenting myself? I took Midori. I don't know if you're familiar with her. She is like a well-known figure in the kink community, particularly West Coast. But I took her Forte Femme, feminine dominance intensive training. And one of the things that she teaches the people in that cohort is how to do scene negotiation. And I left with that knowledge, and I don't know, a couple weeks later, I used the questions from that scene negotiation to talk to my boss, who I was having a difficult relationship with. And the negotiation, it wasn't about asking questions about his sexual preferences or anything. It was, what do you want to see from me? How do I know when you're happy with what I'm doing? How do I know when you need more from me? How do we communicate when we're in the middle of something and we need to communicate? What are some of the things that annoy you that maybe I should look out for? And those questions that I asked him, I answered them as well. And, we had a better understanding of each other after that. And, that's what's so profound, much like with Tantra, much like with being able to express those sensations as either sexual or non-sexual based on your intention. You can have a negotiation with someone, and it can be a sexual negotiation or a non-sexual negotiation. It's really just about understanding another person more deeply.
Gosh, that is so awesome. This has been amazing.
Thank you.
I love being able to get a chance to talk to you. I remember seeing your like it was one of the so I'm on Fat Life, y'all. But I saw your face at one of the Zooms, and I was like, oh my God. First I was like, dang, you are beautiful. You are beautiful. I was like,
thank you.
Wow.
And you are too. Your skin is glowing, by the way. Like, I've been admiring it all night. I just had to say something.
Yeah. So yeah, I saw you and I was like, oh my gosh. I've just been kind of like watching you ever since.
That absolutely warms my heart. And thank you so much for reaching out to me. Like, I love having these conversations, and I absolutely love what you're doing. Your platform, like, you are a dynamo, and I am so happy to have found a moment to share space with you. So yeah, the feeling is absolutely mutual.
Where can people find more about you? Where can they follow you if they're interested?
Well, they can follow me here on Instagram at goddess_Erica. You have to type in the whole thing because I'm shadow banned for no good reason. But you can also find me on my website, dominationcoaching.com. And if you want to check out my videos on Make Love Not Porn, you can actually use the tiny URL that I mentioned. It takes you to the site and it gets you a free credit. And then you can just search for me, my username on.
Hold on. This thing is about to shut down. Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that.
No worries. I need to be more brief.
No. This thing, I didn't realize it was gonna do that. I thought it was giving everybody extra time, but yes. Yeah. Where? Yes.
Yes. So on Make Love Not Porn, if you go to tinyurl.com/yes Goddess Erica, all one word, then that will take you to Make Love Not Porn, and you can look for my content. My username on Make Love Not Porn is Yes Goddess Erica, all one word. So you can find me there. Instagram, my Twitter handle is also Yes Goddess Erica, and also, like I said, dominationcoaching.com if you want to reach out to work with me as a domination coach, whether you are seeking guidance with being single, seeking a relationship, in a relationship, expecting. If you are looking for an orgasmic birth doula, that is also something that I do. I didn't really talk about it very much, but reach out and I can give you an explanation of everything. So, and
Awesome.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
This was great. Thank you all for watching. Anita, Debbie, Kim, hey. All of you guys, thank you. Follow me. This will be uploaded again on all podcast apps and YouTube and here. We'll see. Yeah, but this whole thing will be up soon. So I love y'all. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you, Goddess Erica. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, have an awesome night, y'all.
And hopefully we'll talk again soon. I'm always happy to come back on again and share more knowledge. It's what I do.
Yay! All right, y'all. Good night, y'all. Bye.